YouTube, it's me.
It's me.
Not Bricksmith. Bricksmith is in neither of these screens.
That's right.
Neither of these screens.
Because that's Kevin Hinkle.
And we've got, I was right the first time. I was right. And we got Chris, a.k.a. Fazoom, for your weekly dose of Forever Sorting. We don't know where Julian is, actually. I'm sure he'll turn up. But we're going to take things today. Chris and I've actually never had the privilege on this program of sharing the stage with Chris. It's always been either me and Julian or Julian and Chris. We have not crossed the streams, as it were. So I guess we're gonna take care of that today.
Right. I'm just the weekend host that's getting to be on the main news, like once in a blue moon,
Oh, you like, hello everyone. My name's Chris. Julian's on vacation. So it's like you have to add that because everyone's just like, who's this person?
Yeah, and I watch local news here. There's some local news, and I'll like, hey, somebody's not on. I'll rewind it. Did they say they were? Oh, they said they were on vacation. Okay,
that's because of you is why they do that. That's just great. That's just wonderful. So yeah, I mean, welcome back everybody, and thanks to Chris for popping in this week and helping out. So we've been kind of rolling out this new format, whatever you want to call it, for season 2, where we've actually brought in guests and had a conversation with them. So I don't want to get people too confused. Chris is not technically a guest. I'm not here to interview him really at all. He's just here as a help co-host. So this is kind of one of our normal in-between guest episodes. So just don't, get too confused.
That's right. I'm here to balance the scales. That's right.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. So first and foremost, I would like
to say that I am not drinking out of Pick-a-Bit cups, just on your behalf today.
I appreciate that.
I have them at the ready, but I'm not drinking out of them. So
yeah, what is that actually? Is that like a party cup?
It's a Dollar Tree non-Lego party cup.
I love it with the studs that are just slightly too big.
Yeah, and I did not get it. Someone gave it to me as a thank you. So thank you, Jenny, who gave me this the other day. So
nice. All right, let me wait. Why is it won't let me?
Are we stuck here?
Oh, we're stuck. You guys get to look at Chris for the entire rest of the entire. Why won't it let me change it?
It won't let you change it.
I'll just do this again.
Oh, there you are. There we go.
Usually I get the, when I right click on this thing, it says exit solo layout, and it doesn't have that option for some reason. So I don't know, maybe they're changing it again. But so yeah, let me run through. I want to run through all of our comments because we I think justifiably decided that we didn't want to eat into our guest time by going through comments. So we actually got 2 episodes worth of comments to go through. So let's go back to the episode with Joe
Mino.
So I'm gonna run through
Joe a long time.
You haven't seen him in a long time? Is that what you just said?
I hadn't seen him in a long time, but I've known Joe for a long time.
Oh yeah,
he's been there, done that, man.
OG.
That's right.
So the first comment back then on our episode with Joe was from Doc Sampson, and Doc said, "You really have to work on the description of the video."
Is that a comment for Julian? Is that what it is?
I think it is a comment for the channel owner. So that is I won't disagree.
Well, he gave you the keys to this whole. You are the leader of the Pink Bucket Nation right now.
And what's funny is I actually, when I was setting it up, the cursor was flashing in the description box, and I'm like, well, why start now? So let's go, baby. So I did not write anything in the description. And Reed Hope Castle responded to that comment and said, only if it tells about all the possible tangents. So Reed is too funny. He actually gave up. He gave up on the Forever Sorting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Reed, but I think he actually gave up on the whole series because he got so flustered on one of our tangential episodes that I don't think he's ever come back, but I don't know. He commented, so maybe he does listen.
Maybe it is. And I will say that I watched all of from the beginning to then being on it. All right.
Yeah.
I watched it all during the beginning of COVID and was using that for, mental health and laughter and something awesome to listen to, sorting Lego and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. So
I'm glad to hear that. Like I said, you just listened to the whole thing. I probably said it a dozen times, but my goal was kind of to provide some type of education if there was something that people just didn't know or they've always wondered. Part of it was, I guess, getting it all out there as well. Here's how it went down. And I will say that there's been a handful of times that people have been like, tell me your story. I'm like, there's already a 60 episode podcast. You can go listen to the whole thing right there, which is a really convenient answer. But it was in no way meant to be a scathing, open letter to, that's not what it was meant to be. It was just meant to be, here it is. So I'm glad that anybody enjoyed listening to it. It is weird sometimes when I talk to people that I don't necessarily consider myself to be really close with, and they know a lot about me, and that's a little weird. A little odd. So the next comment is from Bubba Bricks, and Bubba says, good stuff. Well done, guys, and nice to meet you, Joe. Next comment came from a young man named Fazoom, and he just said in all caps, Joe.
My friend Joe.
How would you, so you're here in real life, how did you say that comment?
I said Joe. So I haven't seen Joe face to face in probably 10 years. So that kind of Joe.
I envisioned that's how you said it. And then what's interesting is you had another comment, but then Dude Jude sniped in there and got his comment in. And Dude Jude says, cool. Nice to see you, Joe. Good job, guys. Keep up the good work. We got 4 exclamation points from Dudith. Thank you, Dudith. Then really you came back with a space.
Space. Yeah, he used to call himself the Space Paparazzi because he would take pictures of all of our space stuff and put it online. So that's Joe.
I think my first memory of ever seeing Joe was somewhere at a con with a giant, like $5,000 camera around his neck. I think that's probably the first time. He was probably wearing a Brick Journal shirt.
Probably so.
Our next comment is from Brick Trains. Great episode. Love Brick Journal. And yeah, anybody and everybody, if you guys are a fan of magazines in general, remember magazines? If you guys like magazines and you want to support, a Lego fan business in this community space, really do consider subscribing to Brick Journal. Print publications are struggling in a lot of ways across the entire print publication industry. So of course you can buy them in Barnes and Noble, but a subscription is really kind of the best way because that goes directly to the publisher and you get those mailed to you. And they do come in like it's like a very thin kind of like a cardboard container, like an outer shell. Because I know, like, if it's a magazine I actually want to keep, I don't want it to get ruined. I'm like, I don't want the postman to, bend it in half and shove it in my, I don't want to go in the mailbox and it's wet because it rained that day. But the Brick Journal magazines I've always got have been in like this very thin kind of like a book protector cardboard thing. So in case you were wondering.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Life magazine kind of Lego? They did a couple like a special edition Lego thing like last year, the year before.
The official Lego Life magazine?
Yeah, something like that. It was like, yeah. And so I went to Walmart and I was like, oh, there's on the shelf. And it was all bent up and gnarled because somebody read it. But it was like $12 or $16. I'm like, no. There's no way I'm paying that much for a magazine off the shelf that somebody's pawed through, and it also be, whatever. So.
Oh, are you talking about like that special edition?
Yeah.
That, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have it in one of my bins somewhere.
Yeah. But I was like, no, I'm not buying that.
And what's funny is that was like, I feel like I'm going through my own, as we all do, personal Lego detox journey, or whatever a gray age, a dim age, or whatever you want to say. I'm saying this with an entire basement behind me. But I remember picking up that magazine off the rack, wherever. I think it was Target. And I was like, I don't need this. There's nothing in this I don't know.
Right.
And then I put it in my basket. I said it aloud as I did that. And I'm like, time to leave. So yeah, that was mid sickness. Next comment is from Scott H510. Virtual cons are great, but I'm more interested in the social aspect. Really looking forward to attending a real con in the future.
Oh, I think we all need that.
Yeah. So, Chris, do you have any thoughts on virtual cons?
Let's see. I went to the first Brick World Virtual Con, and I enjoyed it. I really did, popping around the rooms.
Yeah.
And I think there was some magic going on because, number one, COVID had just really hit.
Yeah.
Obviously. Number two, the Lego Masters had just done, so some of those folks were in there, and it was almost felt like you go, oh, I mean, and I know a couple of the contestants on the show, right? So, but meeting some others and all that kind of stuff, and then seeing folks I do know and everything. And there was one space guy that I really didn't know, but I was really impressed at his display. So it was great. And then when the second one rolled around, I kind of hopped in the room, I hopped in your rooms and gave you some grief and all that kind of stuff. And,
well, and also it wasn't that long after the first one.
It was like a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I don't even think it was a month. I think it was like 3 weeks.
And so I'm like, I mean, it's like the one thing is it was just like $5, right? I'm like,
yeah, it was. The first one was $5, but only the first one. Only the first,
right? And I kind of felt like it's like, okay, even if I don't do this very much or I don't spend much time, I've lost $5 and I've given $5 to some folks who are trying to survive all this.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like, here's my donation of $5 and let me poke around the rooms for a little while.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna watch Star Trek Next Generation. That's
the Inner Light. So,
at least it wasn't Tab Rosa or whatever, Sub Rosa, the one where she's with the Harlequin romance ghost. It's awful. The worst.
That's the worst one. Man, that's really the bad one. I think I'm exactly on the same page as you, where I really appreciate that people that we know and support and love for many years that offer something that is quite amazing for the community are very much struggling. When you have an event and you're not allowed to do events, what do you do? And so there is, I definitely think, a huge degree of wanting to support these people so that these things don't go away in the meantime. But there is, I mean, it's also uncharted territory for all these people, as it is for a lot of other industries and companies and brands that are doing these virtual things. And some people are doing things that I think are really cool, and some could use a little improvement. One of the things that Nick actually mentioned from Brickhead Family / Ghost Frickin' Talkin'
Ghost Brickin' Tacos
is he attended a live thing. I'm not sure exactly what the definition of it was, but it was a live event with the Conjuring House, and I think he paid $30, and it was for a full week event. So like you logged into a place. Of course, they had to log in and all this stuff in a site and a landing page, and you went into this place, and it's this supposedly very haunted house, and they had multiple cameras set up, and you had the option to choose what cameras you were looking at. It was live for the entire week. And then they had like a separate, I'm sure it had to have been Zoom because they had rooms and stuff. Right. And then another one, they were doing interviews with people that were related to the property. And I'm sitting there like, okay, that's actually really clever. It's like, you could dive in or dive out for whatever your schedule allows, but you've got a week access to this thing and you paid $30, which is a lot of money. But he said that there was, and this was like the first of its kind, like they had never done something like this, but he said that there was hundreds, if not thousands of people that were attending it. So I thought that was a really interesting example of something like this.
Well, and I think maybe some of the nuance is that I think it's an issue of resolution. You cannot see all the stuff of somebody's mock or whatever through Zoom that you can in person. You can get impressions of what it is, but
Yeah, I mean,
okay, you can get the Instagram, but you can't get the Flickr. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's certain things that work a lot better than others.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, if your experience was the same as mine when you were in the Brick World show, the Lego Masters room was probably packed to the gills. Because when I went in there, it was literally the only room that had like 4 pages worth of visitors in it, and you had to just keep clicking next, and it was like a field of kids. Because that doesn't matter if you're in person or not. You're still talking to this person that you want to talk to.
Right.
But, you know, there's only so much kind of like roller coaster cam footage you can watch. So, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that work better than others. But obviously, you know, Brick World was the pioneer. They were the first to give it a shot in the virtual world. Since then, Brick Fiesta has gone virtual. They already did their virtual con. Bricks by the Bay, I think either already happened or is going to happen, but they're virtual. Brick Con is virtual. Brick Fair has been pretty adamantly anti-virtual.
So I was like, no.
Todd is like, I will not be doing that. Which of course makes me just go, okay, it's fine. That's whatever. But yeah, I kudos to all of them for trying stuff and trying to see what you can do, because who knows how long really this is going to last.
Yeah, and I mean, just say to any Lego fan, if it's, I don't know what the cost is, whatever the fee is, you know what? Even if you get an hour's worth of entertainment out of it or whatever, or just give those folks a couple bucks because they need it. I mean, yeah, they really do.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Stud Sidious was our next commenter, and he said, a guest. Very cool. Glad you approve. Brick Blaze says, Philly was great, although I'm still feeling left out because Kevin didn't ask me to get Philly cheesesteaks with the gang.
Oh.
And so the gang, Carl's Vic replied with, I could eat. So the gang, you know what's funny? It's so interesting. Like there's, anytime I post anything, people are like, I didn't get invited, or I didn't get, I'm like, I'm not gonna, what? I'm not gonna hit the Hinkle light every time I go outside. That's not gonna happen.
But wait a minute, you should have the Hinkle light. There's a big H on the thing, and it follows you out to the restaurant. That would be amazing.
And I need my own Commissioner Gordon. It's got like a sweet mustache and a trench coat. That's like,
and a super huge, big switch.
Yeah. So the first, I'm trying to even remember the first year. The first year would mean Philly Brickfest 2018. I went to get this has now become the tradition, is when I go to Philly, I need a authentic Philly cheesesteak, and you have to drive to Philadelphia, and Philly Brickfest is not in Philadelphia. It's in Oaks. And I know, shock and dismay. Are you telling me? Yeah, pretty much the only con that's like where it says it is BrickCon. Like, BrickCon's like, we're in Seattle, and you're like, well, is it really in Seattle? It's like, well, it's underneath the Space Needle, so yes. All the others are in some suburb, which is fine. But it's like 40-ish minutes away in Philly to get to Philly, and depending on what time, it's going to be like an hour and a half worth of traffic, or you'll just fly. But we went 2018, and it was me and Joey of Is That Joey fame, and Andrew, who's been on the Forever Sorting before from BZ Power, and Daniel Pecora from Pin Lug fame. I think that was it. I think that was our crew, and it really was who's around me right now. And then in 2019, it was me, Brian, and Joey. And we've also tried to go to a different place each time. So like we went to one year we went to De La Sandro's, which all the locals say that's the real one. And then we went to Gino's, which is what the Food Network says is the real one. Right. That's the one that's got all the marketing and all the buzz. And so there's still Pat's. We need to go to Pat's next. That was going to be this year, was going to be Pat's. But
right.
If you're, just stay within my vicinity, Blaze, and then we will go get cheese. You just got to hover.
Do you feel like sometimes if you're like, if I leave the con for more than an hour or so, I feel like I'm all of a sudden missing out on what I was actually there for? I mean,
yeah, I mean, it hits. I think my buffer is probably around the 2-hour mark, I think. Just because, when you go eat with any other person, usually your meal's an hour by itself, and that kind of flies by. But if it's more than 2 hours, or if the thing I'm doing seems just so vastly not related, then I'm like, wait a minute. And it's interesting because, my friend Matthew K loves to do not con things. Like he goes to all of them, but he goes out of his way to spend as little time as possible at the show. I don't know. We talk about this all the time because he'll go to Brick World, and he will I'll be there at the show 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, whatever. And yeah, I leave for meals, but I'm there all day. And then all of a sudden 11 p.m. rolls around and Matthew walks in with a coffee. And I'm like, I haven't seen you all day. And he's like, yeah, I know. I haven't been here all day. And I was like, where have you been? He's like, oh, well, I toured the Natural History Museum and I went and saw the Frank Lloyd Wright building. I took an audio tour of downtown. And I'm like, those all sound cool, but you could do that anytime. He does this all the time, and that's how he enjoys it. But
all of a sudden you have an intervention. You know what, Matthew? I don't think you like Lego.
I've told him so many times. I'm like, I think all the stuff you plan to do when you travel is sick. I'd love to join you for that stuff. You don't have to wait until there's a thing happening that weekend. That seems a little like an odd combo to be like, well, I'm gonna go sightseeing, but I'm gonna wait until there's a reason, and then I'm not gonna go to that, whatever. So I also have that. I think it's like a 2-hour kicks in, or if I'm just because I've gone with Matthew on some of these excursions because I'm like, man, I would really like to see that. And then when it stretches into 3 hours, I'm like, okay, now I'm feeling guilty because that's not quite.
Yeah.
But yeah. And our last comment on that episode was from Bricksar. I like Joe's ideas. Also, Kevin talking about people actually wanting to talk about their stuff made me think of the excitement we had then. Julian got shushed because of an unnerved stormtrooper. So yeah, that was in reference to Alabama, Brick Fair, Alabama. Because as I was saying in that episode, I do find it rather inspiring and astonishing that most of the folks from the YouTube circle are extremely passionate about talking to the public about their stuff, because that's what they do.
Yeah. And
so they are always on the other side of the stanchions. They don't even get back there. They are, like I said, taking photos with people. Some of them signing autographs, but just talking. And not to say that, there are not people that don't do that in the community, but I think most of all, from my experience, a majority of the people that go to conventions and display are really not necessarily there for the public at all. They are there for their friends, and they put their stuff on the table because they want to show off to their other friends. Maybe you have a different read, Chris, but I feel like most are public. They're fine.
Well, some of them are public. I don't do public very. Anyway.
Yeah, give me.
I like it, even though I'm naturally introverted, but I like talking about the brick. I love encouraging kids. I love seeing whatever, and encouraging parents and stuff too. So that's in my nature too. So I like doing it. Yeah. There's been many a times where I look around and they're like, dude, are you going to be here a while? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be here. And so they'll go behind the curtain or whatever. Now I will have my abundance of sufficiency and I will have to take a break or my voice gets all dried out and all that stuff. But I like it. I like taking stuff apart and showing how you built it, especially if there's a young kid who's excited about that and wants to know how that's done and everything. So and I missed of all the brick fairs for me to miss. I missed this year's brick fair.
Yeah.
Because my schedule just didn't allow it.
Yeah.
And I would have met Julian and all those guys earlier. Right. And but yeah, from what I understand, they're very, very excited about meeting people and all that kind of stuff, which I think is great. Yes. Right. So
yeah, they are. And then, to the comment, we were able to get the 501st this year at Brick Fair, and they were actually they had a kind of a cool little alcove that they brought for photo ops, and that was directly next to the YouTube island. And as anybody who's been with Julian at a convention knows, Julian dials Brick Smith up to about 25 at a con, which is, dare I say, unmatched by many people I know in the community. I mean, that man will go for the whole duration of a show and he'll sleep 6 hours the entire time. And I'm like, how are you alive? But
real, right?
But he dialed, and so we had lots of woos. We had lots of boisterous woos.
I understand that there was a request for a less wooing, I believe. It was
the woos are done was the hashtag we made that day. But yes, unfortunately, one of the stormtroopers that was stationed directly across after his 100th woo was starting to get a little triggered. And you know what? Some people can hang, some people can't hang. Because it's kind of great because, you know, I've been there too where I've seen it where like you've got somebody across the hall like at Philly or at Alabama when they're like, I love that guy's woos. It's so cool. And then there's the people like, enough with the woos. It's like you have like totally different people that like, you know, take it. So that was the woos are done is what we
woos are done.
All right. So that's all the comments we had for the episode with Joe.
Joe.
Just
I love Joe.
And then the next one we have is with InTalk. And let's see. So for that, our first comment on that episode was Carl's Vic saying woo. How timely. Saying woo. Then we had one from the Brick Burrow saying BIG Ben was my gateway. The camper van was second for me too. So talking about what set brought you back into the hobby.
And found out the Brick Burrow actually is an Atlanta native or lives in Atlanta and everything. So not far away. Once we can get close to each other and, you know, we can
do something, right?
Yeah. Hope Brick Burrow comes to Dixie Lug, now renamed Peach Lug.
Peach Lug.
That's right.
That's just beautiful.
It is. We're going to have orange butts on our shirts.
Yeah. Now you got to own that emoji on the phones. Like you got to own it.
We'll own it.
Brick Bro put another comment saying, I'm a watcher. I work so much because Julian had said, like, all you guys that watch it don't ever say anything. So he was trying to bring out the folks. Winter Bricker says, hi, Kim. And InTalk replied, hello.
She lives near Augusta, and I grew up near Augusta, opposite sides of Augusta and everything. But she has been to the Toys R Us I went to as a very young boy. So,
and that's actually the very next comment.
Yes,
the very next comment was from you saying, I bet Kim bought Lego at the Toys R Us I used to shop at in Augusta. And she said, I bet I did too. Let's see. I missed that place. Yeah. I remember buying Lone Ranger sets there when I was first into Lego. It is an Ollie's now. I don't know what Ollie's is. What's Ollie's?
Ollie's is like a clearance out items from a store, kind of secondhand discount store kind of thing.
Interesting.
It's a chain though.
Do they have Lego?
Sometimes maybe they can, like a clearance out, you know, whatever. So.
Gotcha. All right, our next one's from Brick Trains. Brick Train says, great episode. Love hearing your story, Kim. Heather and myself are so glad we got to meet you at Brick Fair, Alabama. Dude20, Kim, it's lovely to see you. I miss talking with you at Bama Brick Fair. Good one, guys. Keep up the good work. You know what? Kudos to you for being consistent, Dude Jude, on 4 exclamation points each time. That's you're counting when you hit the button. I know it.
Do you think he has a little sidebar and he just copy and paste? I mean, do you
No, because I actually asked him that one time and he said, no, I don't copy and paste in the next episode. That was his comment. So I thought I called him out and I did not call him. But thank you, Judith. Thank you for commenting.
Dude Jude's awesome.
Next comment is from Brick Blaze. Kim is such a wonderful person. I am glad to see her story. Cards Against Humanity is such a fun game. Do you play Cards Against Humanity, Chris?
I do not.
Are you privy to the game? Do you know what it is?
I know what the game is all about. I have read it. I would be sure the sarcastic humor and puns and stuff would affect my humor well, but I'm like, nope, that's one of those things I would not do. That's just not my deal. That's not in my wheelhouse.
You and I, next time we're at a show and they break that out, we'll go to the corner and play Go Fish.
It's just bring out the Uno cards.
You know, I have in my time, I mean, Cards Against Humanity seems to honestly be, it has solidified itself as a game at every Lego show, like all of them, and multiple decks are brought, and it just seems like it every show, and usually alcohol's involved. Usually it's every night. And I can't tell you how many times I've been like, let me just go stand next to them. And I'm always there. And it only takes like 15 minutes. I'm like, I don't think I have enough pigment in my cheeks to blush enough. I'm ready to walk away. I'm good. I'm set.
Well, I will say, I mean, people know what I do and pastor, things like that. And I can remember, I think it was Larry P at one of the shows. He goes, Chris, you don't want to be involved.
You don't want to.
Went ahead and was shielding me from it. He's like, no, this is not for you, buddy.
You know what? I'm not going to rain on their parade, but I will stay on the other side.
Although I would play Super Fight with you and like to get a group. Have you ever heard of the game Super Fight?
Is that a card game?
It is a card game, kind of in general. But what you do is you get a random personality, superhero or fictional character, and then you get superpowers, and they could be really good superpowers or really stupid superpowers.
Like your fingernails grow?
Like, yeah. So you're Darth Vader with 6 arms, and you can hold your breath underwater. And but that's yours. And then somebody else gets another one, and they get a set of superpowers. And you set a minute timer, and you argue against each other who would win in the fight, and then everybody else playing votes. And it's very funny. Because you just are arguing and screaming at each other and everything. And it's great.
That's super interesting. Have you ever played, I'm sure you have, Settlers of Catan?
Yeah. That's like a religion or something. I don't
I don't like I don't do a lot of like tabletop gaming and stuff like that. But that is like, I'm going to tell you guys now, everybody listening, you want to get like on the good side, like inner circle confidence with Todd, who owns Brick Fair, just play Catan. That man, I know no one on this planet that is more obsessed with Catan than Todd is. Todd brought his copy of Settlers of Catan on a cruise ship, and we were together off the coast of Miami, and he wanted to play Settlers of Catan. I stared at him and I said, I think I'm all set. And I went and did 1,000 other things on that boat. And he sent me a photo of himself in the boat's library. I'm like, the boat's library.
The sun is setting, Miami in the distance, and he's in the library of the ship.
He sent me photos. He had wrangled random passengers with him, and they were all sitting at a table playing Settlers of Catan. But yeah, I've never played it. He's asked me so many times. Todd and I stayed together in a Airbnb for Brick Fair, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of funny because he booked like one Airbnb for like everyone, and then one for like me and him and Master Builder Dan. Cause I guess we were like the upper tier help, and then everybody else was, I guess, not. And so I kind of was
running water, right?
Well, I was kind of sad because I was like, but I want to stay with like Keith and Joey and Nick and like all, I mean, that's kind of cool. But I mean, every night he was like, you want to play Catan? I'm like, no, not once do I want to play Catan. So, but that man is obsessed. He will play like every day during Brick Fair. He'll play Catan.
Well, our game actually is Munchkin. We have like a bunch of Munchkin games. I've even got the ones that Greg Highland has drawn in.
Yeah.
He actually drew us in the game one time, Mark Sandlin.
Oh yeah, I think you showed that at one of the, like, because you showed the pictures of it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like the zombie.
That's right.
Space logo.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember that. I watched. I watched in my absence.
I was checking.
The thing that I found crazy. So I'm. Let me just read this last comment, and we're done.
Sure.
So our last comment from that was from Blockhead UK. great to hear Kim's story. I remember seeing her big Fabuland display on Beyond the Brick and being very impressed. So thank all of you guys for your comments on both of those episodes. Let me clear that out. So Munchkin. Again, I'm not a big card game, tabletop game. Like I've never really been into it. And so I had never in my life heard of Munchkin. Didn't even have any idea what that was. And, you know, in my Lego journey, as you guys all know, I grew up in Austin. That's where I was born. And I moved back to Austin to open the Lego store there. And we had a regular customer named Steve Jackson. And he would come in and he'd buy stuff. And I knew nothing about Steve except for he was a member of the local chapter of TechSlug and he liked Lego. That's all. I mean, that's literally all I knew about Steve. And it was like years later, because then, I mean, that was my only knowledge of Steve the entire time I was back in Austin. And then it wasn't until I moved to Infield years later and I was a community guy and I was realizing what he was a part of. and he was at the show. I think the real moment, the one that really hit it for me is I was visiting like a Target and I was looking through the toy aisle with my son and I'm like, I think that game says Steve Jackson on it. And I like picked it up and I was like, wow, that's kind of a coincidence that guy that I used to know. And I looked on it and it was like the address of the board game company was in Austin, Texas. And I'm like, And then it was kind of like on the forefront. So like I would pick up on it when people were talking about it. And then I realized, And it was funny because I was at Brickworld in Chicago one year and I remember just casually seeing Steve and I was like, you're a millionaire. that's like all I said. It was just me and him. Like we weren't in a group. And he was like, maybe. And I was like, I just realized that you kind of make games, don't you? And he like clutched his hands, looked into the ceiling and laughed and then walked away. Like, yep. Interesting. But it was like, it took me years to connect him to that. It was just kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, back in, 02, 03 at the Brickfest, the original Brickfest and everything, he would run Evil Stevie's Pirate Game. And it was a little strategy game with the pirate sets and all this kind of stuff. And it was, I mean, I never played it, but it was a big deal for some of those guys. And even some of those guys have passed on in the community to play Evil Stevie's and everything. And then, later I'm like, oh, that guy is the guy. That's the guy.
That's kind of crazy.
So, yeah, that's super great. And that he's,
successful.
He's such a nice guy, but so successful. I love it. I mean, it's kind of that Weird Al thing. I'm proud of the nerd that makes it big and never loses their nerdness, right? So
yeah, that's the dream.
For the dream, that's right.
That is a dream. So speaking of nerds and nerdness, we've gone through all of our comments. So of course, as per usual banter, we have burned through a little more than half our time together today. Wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So you had suggested talking about just ways in which, at least from our perspectives, how the Lego fan community has changed or evolved over time.
Right.
And I think it's very interesting because, I mean, obviously we're both actively participating in it right now, but I feel like we definitely had like different shifts. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, I mean, I knew nothing prior to 2011. It's like, what happened? I mean, all I knew was from research and conversation. But then like, you had, for reasons, stepped out and like, that's when I was in, and like, I was in and not just in.
Cleared my set out. That's what
I mean, in and financially responsible to keep in, it's one thing to be like, I used to talk to some of the other fans and they'd be like, well, I mean, I probably know, about more community stuff than you, because people always try to one up everybody. And I'm like, and it would be, sometimes if I, depending on the mood, I was like, well, I mean, I get paid to do this. Like, it's my job to know. So it's like, you realize, but,
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I mean, what do you think? I mean, how have things changed?
Well, obviously the depth of numbers obviously have changed. I mean, we went from, it was basically the internet brought a lot together. So, your first convention maybe had 150 people, and that's a big convention. And now that would be considered a
starter,
medium to small size convention, right? Is it worth the time if only 150 AFOL show up to put in a show? And back in the day, that was the top show and everything.
Yeah.
And so back in those days, that's before licensing or into licensing and everything. Now we just did a show on my channel, Talking Live, talking about what's going to be the big controversy of this limited edition, the Dagobah, not Dagobah, the Bespin set that's in the catalog was a limited run, only available in America and gone in an hour and a half when it was online, and all this kind of stuff, and probably the uproar that's going to happen in the community flooding through that. And I don't care. I didn't want the set. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's so many segments of where you can be. Back in the day when we used to yell castle and space and train at each other to make fun of each other, that was pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Mosaic fans, you got big collectors, you got set collectors that are never taking them out of the box, you got set builders that take it out of the box, you got mock creators, you've got not mock creators, you've got collect all the special things. Who gives a hang about the special things? I think the community, I mean, and like you say, I'm not going to tell you how to enjoy your hobby. I get that. And I'm on that and everything, but it's so diverse, and diversity's good. I mean, it's great. Everybody has their thing. But it sure seems really hard to wrangle those cats, you know what I'm saying? Versus the way it was back in the day,
Oh yeah.
I said it back in the day, by the way, there it is, back in the day. So
back in my day. Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, that just seems, and how Lego thinks they're doing it without any community managers and all that kind of stuff is beyond me, you know. But
it's interesting. That's for sure. And one of the things I was thinking about, of course, which I think could probably be applied to almost anything, is, the more things change, the more things stay the same. And, thinking about like controversy, I mean, there's always going to be a thing. There's always going to be a controversy of what are people upset about. And what's interesting for Lego, the company, and, I've said this before, is that they definitely seem to have a repeating cycle of making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Companies make mistakes. People make mistakes. Hopefully you learn from them, but they have an interesting work culture there where there is, and this is definitely not an opinion only held by myself. I mean, multiple people that work there, still working there today, confirm, yep, that still happens, where there's just such a lack of knowledge transfer when people move on or go to different departments or leave the company, come into the company or whatever, that you constantly are just retreading old ground again. But it's a little different. It's got a little bit of different paint on it this time. They think maybe it's going to work out differently, and sometimes it kind of does, but there really is this circle thing going on. But so there's always going to be a controversy or something going on. Your point about people liking all the classic Lego themes, whether you're a pirate person or a castle, it is interesting because there's been so many years now, like Ninjago. Ninjago passed a decade. It's been, I mean, there are kids that are not kids anymore that have played with that, and that's all they're like. They have every right to sit in the crowd and chant Ninjago because that's all they buy.
Exactly.
And
I have living upstairs, so
yeah. And Star Wars, of course, there is, it wasn't around pre 1999, I guess, right? I think that's it, 99. But right. There are, again, Lego fans that literally have only bought Star Wars their whole lives because it's been around for so long. And the superheroes, Marvel and DC superheroes, I think, have also maybe hit a 10-year, maybe more than 10 years now.
Good chance.
And that's kind of wild to think about.
I would have never thought they would hold both of those competing comic licenses together for that long. Now, whoever's making those calls and trying to juggle those cats, they are doing a good job keeping although both those companies are probably struggling selling comic books right now. So they would love, and their movies, obviously one company makes more popular movies than the other company, but Lego sets are free advertising for them, not free, but are good advertising for them and everything. So
the licensing folks definitely are doing some good work. The teams that negotiate all that kind of stuff. They actually said recently DC had announced that they laid off 400 people just because they are hurting over there in the DC world.
But that Snyder cut, that's going to save everybody.
It's a 4-hour movie now.
I'm tired. I'm tired of this. I'm just going to go ahead and throw it down. I'm not going to get HBO Max to watch the Snyder cut.
No, I'm not.
Jake, my son would probably talk me into more getting HBO Max so he could watch, or I might even consider it so I could watch Superman the animated series and Batman the animated series from the 90s, right?
Yeah.
But
the Bruce Timm era.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. But I love those, right? But I didn't like any of Snyder's movies that he actually made that much. No offense to him. I liked Watchmen, but I did not like the takes on the other.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
how much can you really change a
put on
film?
this pig to make it pretty? I really don't know. So I don't know.
How much can you really change a film? If the film was done, already out, been in, it's done its life. Like, can you really, really, really change it that much? But yeah, the most recent thing I saw was that yes, its current runtime is 4 hours.
4 hours. I don't think that's going to draw me in. It's not really at all, but.
It's the 4 hours and the black suit Superman. I'm in. I'm good.
Is he gonna have a mullet? Is he gonna have the black suit with the mullet back in the 90s? That needs to happen, right?
I do remember the images. I remember seeing them like, oh, that's interesting. But yeah, I think something that has been really astonishing, and from what I've seen, just really just good progress. Like, I don't see a lot of hiccups. Is this the ways in which the community in and of itself has evolved and pioneered things like sites like Rubricable, which, that's an incredible tool that exists. And, you can get into the intricacies of Bricklink and J. Kim purchasing it and all that, but Studio was an amazing thing to be offered to the community. So much so that Lego's like, we're going to buy this and we're going to just slap LDD on top of it now.
Right.
That's an incredible thing. Bricklink, by itself continuing to be a thing, was incredible. All the books that have come out and the shows. When I dived into the community, there was 6. There was 6 shows. I remember it vividly. There was 6. And I was responsible for the 6. And then when I left, I think it was up to 22. And that's in the span of 5 years.
Right.
And so it's just like, that's kind of incredible. The one thing I did notice about the evolution of the shows was the one thing that I was like, that's kind of a shame, but I don't know if there's really anything you can do about it, is, the more shows popped up was because, it was always usually the same reason, is somebody had attended a BrickCon, Brick Fair, Brick World. They loved it so much they wanted to bring it home. That's like kind of what everybody said. And so then you've got an event that pops up in Utah or Texas or whatever. And that, of course, means that now you've got something closer. So the people that would have gone to another show, you're pulling that audience down here now.
Right.
A little bit of cannibalism, and that, I don't know if it's bad. It's just like, oh, all right, that's a thing now. And so, but it's just kind of incredible to keep seeing so many shows and just ways that people express themselves in the hobby. YouTube, Instagram, Lego videos on TikTok. I guess that's a thing.
Did you see? I don't know if you tuned in. I'm not going to call you out if you did or didn't. But Brick Blaze, Brick Blaze did a show and brought in Epic Bricks, who does Lego TikTok videos, and he has like 230,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
and he's doing Lego things in 15 to 30-second videos. I'm like, how the heck? So I turned over there, and like they're 30-second videos. He does a great job. He's a really good. Yeah. He knows how to speak to the culture now through that medium and everything. Yeah. And they're great, but I'm like, 30 seconds? That's all you get? I mean, what?
I can already see that picture, like, of you, like, looking at your phone.
What the heck?
All right, time to go to the Waffle House. Get over it.
Well, I can order my eggs and hash browns at Waffle House and watch 15 of his videos before.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean the thing that's really incredible about that is that that's another person advocating for the hobby to a whole new audience of people, which is cool. I've never really been Lego the company gets very, very enamored, like hardcore enamored, when celebrities talk about Lego. Like when David Beckham posts a picture of him building the Hogwarts castle and Victoria Beckham is just so annoyed. They get head over heels enamored with that. I was in meetings where they were discussing how much free stuff they could send David Beckham because they didn't want the momentum to stop. So they're like, I'm like, you realize this is a millionaire? I don't know. He can buy whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And I mean, I felt like this was another one of those like life lessons where it's like, this is why people say the rich get richer. It's because this guy literally can buy anything, and this company, and they did, because then of course, week or whatever later, they sent him the Disney castle, and he posted on his Instagram, whatever. He's like, Lego just sent me this. And I'm like, why are we doing this? But like, they get super enamored. I've never really been like, I kind of roll my eyes when it's like, oh, look, Orlando Bloom has got a Lego shelf in the back of his interview with Stephen Colbert. But I do appreciate that what always seems to happen is that, again, it's another exposure of this brand and hobby to a new group of people. Right. And so it's like, whatever, celebrity, you can do whatever you want. But now there's like this, however many hundreds or thousands of people have just been like, oh yeah, Lego's a thing. And then they go online and they kind of, that's like the real outcome of celebrities talking and doing stuff with Lego.
So what you're saying, that Lego is not going to find a guy like me who, at least he says not his mom's basement, but he pays for the basement. But this guy that like me, who is in his basement, that's not really athletic or attractive.
You're not getting.
I post a video being excited about Legos, and I'm like, hey, let's tell that guy.
Please don't tag us in our account. please stop. Yeah, no, when I was on the way out, they were really experimenting and trying a lot of things with. What was the name of it? It was like a new type of marketing, like really diving into the influencer world. I don't think it was called influencer marketing. It had a name, but it was really aimed at influencers. And I remember the guy that they put in charge of it was a really nice guy, and I had a good relationship with him. But I often felt like we were talking in circles around each other. Because it'd be like, well, because we would meet decently often. And he'd be like, I just found this really cool YouTuber that's got 3 million subscribers. And he did this video because he took minifigs and he put the connector from the iPhone in his hand. So I'm thinking about sending him $3,000 worth of products. And I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. So I have a group of 10 people that take bins of Lego to hospitals and work with kids for thousands of hours. I was hoping to send them 1 case of magazines. You think you could help me with that? No. It's just like, we had meetings like that all the time, but it's just, it's not in the budget. But like, they were really, really experimenting with that kind of world. And I think they pretty confident they still are, where, I mean, you can see that in even some of the products when we start talking about like adults welcome, they're not talking about AFOLs. Like they're talking about new adults and new consumers. And it's just kind of interesting.
It seems, I don't know. We had this argument, I guess, or whatever. There's the deep Lego fan and there's the wide Lego fan, and the deep Lego fan is like, I mean, there's bricks in here that are 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
You know, or plus, you know what I'm saying? Or the wide that maybe buys the couple of the big sets maybe once or twice, or maybe just once, all that kind of stuff. Now, I guess if Lego widens that pool, sure, that's going to create more sales. It's more apt to dry up when the bubble pops. And then you're going to have the hardcore fans going, hey, I've been here all along, you know.
What about me?
What about me?
But I've been here. Yeah, it's interesting because they very much have had that strategy with children for as long as I had been there. You know, anytime I was at a marketing summit or a conference, it was really all about recruitment. Mm-hmm. That was it. And was kind of, I was led to believe very just inherent in the toy industry is kids grow up, they move on. So you want to get them in, you want to get them buying stuff because you're going to lose them anyway. And that's fine. Right. Accept it. So just get as many as you can. And that was always the philosophy. And it's so interesting because they have definitely copied and pasted that for adults. Is they're like, you know, we want to recruit and bring as many people as we can. They're not at all really concerned about retainment. And, you know, I was in my marketing boot camp, was taught about the 3 R's, recruitment, retainment, and reactivation. And reactivation is absolutely bottom of the barrel. Is it even on the list priority to them? Which reactivation is at its definition, AFOLs. That's what it's people that play with it as a kid, had a strong affinity for the brand, stepped away from for an undisclosed amount of time, and now you have reactivated them on your brand and they're not going anywhere. Because that reactivation is usually very strong. It's not like if you really liked it and you're coming back into it, you're not usually the person that will buy the one set and then is done with it. That's like that casual fan that you're talking about. That's not really like, oh yeah, my friends had Lego as a kid, but like they're not really into it, but they really like Ghostbusters. So they bought the Ecto one and that's the end of it.
Right.
Reactivation, not a thing. It's not, I mean, it's a thing. You should know it, but it's not a thing that they're worried about. And I feel like that's an interesting strategy, specifically if you want to push adult sales.
Right.
I'm not a marketing genius by any means. I am just an artist. But I feel like my gut tells me that if you shower these folks that are so incredibly passionate about your brand and spend thousands of dollars well above the normal household spend, that's going to come back in the long run in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
I have no evidence to back that up, of course, but I just feel like that would be the smart move. But what do I know? What do I know?
Well, yeah, that was one that I mean, I've said this a bunch of times, and that's what the philosophy was back in the day with Jake McKee, Steve Witt, especially Jake McKee used that phrase a lot, that the adult fans, the passionate fans, the long-termers were the evangelists for the brand. That is how he viewed us. We're the ones spreading the good news about the brick. We were the ones that played with it as a kid, and now we're still playing with it, and we're doing the advanced level stuff to challenge the kids to say, okay, this is not just something that I'm doing for until I'm 16 and plus and I don't want them anymore. Oh, I'm just going to continue doing this on through college and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And in some ways that worked because Carter Baldwin works for Lego now, and he was a teen fan. Tyler Kleitz, who has been a fan all his life, came in Lego and the Lego Master winner, right?
Yeah.
And he was a young man, teen fan, coming up through those days and met us and then blew us away and passed us, lapped us in what he could build. Right.
Yeah.
But carrying it on this. So we had that effect of evangelism on these people who took it deep, not wide, in their fandom. And that's still the folks who are on Brickmasters and, talking about the brick and inspiring kids and all that kind of stuff, which I say that all the time, that they are continuing on. So, the investment in those folks matters. And probably has more effect on the brand than Lego probably realizes, I would say.
Right. That's for sure. I mean, even just in the few years that I was there, like I could recognize that there was definitely a very strong level of influential marketing happening, whether that was at shows, not just cons, but like when a lug does something in a library or whatever, you are definitely promoting that brand to people, parents, kids, families, and they're more than likely going to go buy something. And we tried. I mean, it's a hard thing to track, and anything in a business is always going to be a numbers game, always. And I mean, I had plenty of meetings where I was in there, chest puffed, like, let me tell you why these people are important. And, but they'd always be like, show me the data. And I'm like, let me tell you another really good anecdotal story. I mean, it's just like the data was so difficult to get. Like I remember meeting with the account manager for, I think it was Toys R Us, because I started with Walmart and they like laughed at me. I was like, okay. So I think Toys R Us was a little easier, a little more focused. I guess it's something the difference of 600,000 stores and like 20,000 stores. But Toys R Us, I was like, is there any way you can tell me, or you can track the sales of Lego in your locations that are in close proximity to large scale Lego fan conventions? And this was a lot of, I mean, it seems easy. I think it seems easy. Apparently it wasn't. But just trying to like get some kind of control number, like, how much Legos does this store sell? Like if you take the Toys R Us, for example, that's 5 minutes away from Schaumburg, Illinois, during the weekend of Brick World, how much do they sell during the show versus a month ago or a month later? And that's what we did. We took how much would they sell that weekend, comparing it to how much they sold 1 month prior, and how much they sell 1 month after, to see what the difference is. And we were able to do just a little bit, and it was only one location. What location? I think it was Schaumburg. I think it was Chicago. And I mean, it was kind of one of those, like, I could never win situations, because it showed like there was like a 76% increase. And I'm like, I got a number. And I went, and they were like, that's great. So just, usually we'll have like a minimum of 10 points. So what are your other locations? I'm like, I got one. It's like, give me one. But I mean, it was like constantly an uphill battle. And I mean, the battle was for money. That's what it was for. It was always for money. It's like these people could do so much more with so little. And we give pallets of stuff away to David Beckham. I mean, it's like, but I've talked about that before.
Right.
It's just, trying to quantify impact through influential marketing, which is very difficult.
One of the things I wonder is all the quote unquote targeted stuff for adults right now. And there's a lot of it. Yeah. And it's a lot expensive too.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I've heard and seen and talked to some Lego fans. It's like, dude, this is killing me, man. Those sets do appeal to me, but I'm like,
well, and see, that right there is a perfect example of like high affinity, long-term fan and casual fan. Someone who's buying Lego every month That's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah,
who buys one Lego set that whole year, they're like, did you see this like super sick piano I bought? It's just like it's very, I mean, both are valid.
Yeah,
Both
right.
are valid, but it's like, I think it's another point in the fact that they're really leaning into that they don't expect these people to be buying. They're expecting them to get that one set. That's what they're expecting, which is how they can get away with it, and which is why they will keep getting away with it until sales suffer. When sales suffer, that's when you make adjustments.
Yeah, when one of those big sets tanks, then they will. Yeah, sure. But hey, bricks and pieces.
Yeah. I mean, I could show you, but we might not ever be able to take the camera off of you again. That's like, and we just end. But hey, that's a whole hour. We already wasted a whole hour.
Wow.
I mean, hopefully that was entertaining.
I hope so.
Reminiscing. We went through comments.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's all we've got. Chris, would you like to share any parting words with the Forever Sorting audience?
I would say, and this goes to my mock building friends, build what you want. Build what makes you happy, what the inner child in you wants to build, and don't worry how many views and
the numbers,
who notices it. Build it for you to enjoy and everything. And if you want to go show it off at a convention when we ever get to again, sure, great. But make the motive for building to express your creativity. Don't worry about who's impressed by it. So
don't worry about those numbers.
That's right. Don't worry about the numbers. This is a medium for you to have fun with. Just go have fun with it. So
beautiful. So that's our show today, folks. That's what we got. If all goes according to plan, we should have a guest for you next week. I won't spoil anything, so don't ask. Don't ask. But yeah, thanks for everybody for listening and watching as per usual. Thank you, Chris, for popping in and taking over the I guess you would be Chewbacca in this case, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Punch it. There we go. So yeah, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. That's Chris right over there.
That's Kevin right over there.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you next time with Forever Sorting. Bye, everybody.
Bye.